Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to tackle a question that has really shaped so much of modern American politics. Why do so many American evangelicals fervently support Donald Trump? Well, the answer seems to lie in a really powerful theological framework, and we're going to unpack it all based on the research of Professor Andre Gagne.
Okay, so let's just jump right in, shall we? It's a question that, puzzles a lot of people, but it turns out there's a specific and surprisingly organized worldview that gives us a pretty clear answer.
And to really understand the why behind it all, we first have to get familiar with an influential and, frankly, fast-growing movement happening inside modern Christianity.
Now, try to think of this less like a formal denomination, with a strict membership list, and more like a powerful network. The name itself was actually coined by a theologian named C. Peter Wagner to describe this web of interconnected leaders and churches who all share this vision of restored spiritual authority right here on earth.
And what's really important to get here is that Wagner didn't just invent this movement out of thin air. He was a professor who studied how churches grow, and he started noticing this distinct pattern, these independent, super fast-growing churches led by these strong, almost CEO-like leaders. He saw the trend, gave it a name, and by 2001, he was declaring that this second apostolic age had officially landed in America.
Okay, so this isn't just about how churches are run. It's about political action, and that action is fueled by a very specific and incredibly powerful political theology.
This core idea, which is called dominionism, goes way beyond just personal faith or trying to convert individuals one by one. No, for them, it's understood as a divine mandate, a command, really, to fundamentally reshape all of society by taking control of its most important institutions.
And wow, this quote from Wagner really gets to the heart of it. It basically reframes the story of Genesis into a modern-day call to action. The idea is that Christians have to actively reclaim control of the world for God, an authority they believe was lost way back in the Garden of Eden and now has to be taken back.
Okay, so if that's the goal, how exactly are they planning on pulling this off, this kind of huge societal transformation? Well, the answer is in a very concrete and highly targeted strategy. They've developed a pretty clear roadmap, and it's known as the Seven Mountain Mandate. It identifies what they see as the key areas of cultural influence that absolutely must be conquered for this whole transformation to succeed.
Right, and the key thing to understand here is that this isn't just some vague spiritual hope. No, it's a very targeted plan. The belief is that by getting people into leadership positions, in government, in the media, in business, you name it, they can enact huge social and political change, basically from the top down.
And this brings us right back to where we started. Where in the world does a figure like Donald Trump fit into this theological plan?
Well, the theological case for supporting him isn't really based on the idea that he's, a pious model Christian. Instead, it's built on this really powerful parallel from the Old Testament.
So you have key figures in this movement, like a leader named Lance Wallnau, who famously started drawing this direct line between Trump and King Cyrus. Now, Cyrus was a pagan king, not a believer, but God still used him to accomplish his purposes for Israel. In the exact same way, Trump is seen as an imperfect but divinely chosen vessel for their agenda.
And for a lot of people in this movement, this was huge. This perceived prophetic link was just incredibly powerful. The fact that the biblical story of Cyrus is in Isaiah chapter 45, and Trump was about to become the 45th president, well, that felt like a sign, like a little nod from God that solidified his role in their unfolding story.
So, from their point of view, Trump had already conquered 3 of the mountains: business, media, and entertainment. His presidency was seen as the key, the final piece of the puzzle to capture the most powerful mountain of all: government.
Okay, so this whole political vision, it doesn't just exist on its own. It's deeply, deeply connected to a belief in an ongoing cosmic battle and a very particular way of seeing the future. In this passage from the Bible, it's absolutely foundational here. It really fuels this idea of spiritual warfare, which is a framework where political opponents and disagreements over ideology aren't just seen as simple human conflicts. No, they're viewed as battles against actual demonic forces. And all of this ties directly into how they see the end times playing out. You see, unlike some Christian beliefs where the world gets worse and worse before the end, this view, called victorious eschatology, is kind of the opposite. It teaches that the church is actually destined to achieve victory and dominion right here on earth, growing in power and glory before any final judgment.
So, okay, we've looked at all these different pieces: the apostles, dominion, the 7 mountains, King Cyrus. What's the big takeaway here? What does it all mean?
The bottom line, according to Professor Gagnet's research, is that this is not some fringe belief system. It's a really powerful and well-developed theology that gives its followers a sense of divine purpose for their political action, and that mobilizes a very significant, very motivated group of people with real-world consequences for politics and society.
So, understanding this worldview isn't just an academic exercise, it's pretty essential. And it leaves us with a final and really critical question to think about. What happens at that intersection of faith, power, and the future of democratic society?